Are highly sensitive people, or HSPs, more likely to be gaslighted? Well, that depends. And the answer may surprise you. Hi, I'm Ashton. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I specialize in working with highly sensitive people, and I'm an HSP myself. So let's have a look at, are HSPs more likely to be gaslighted? I'm going to answer that specific question towards the end of the video, but first I want to talk about two common characteristics of HSPs that will help us determine the answer to this question. So the first characteristic is sensing the subtleties. And what that basically means is that we notice everything. We notice all of the details. We pick up on the subtleties that other people aren't picking up on. We can read facial micro expressions. We can sense subtle body language. As a matter of fact, researchers believe that the trait that highly sensitive people have developed as a survival mechanism. So we were the ones who paid attention to which berries were poisonous. We were the ones who could read the micro expressions and the body language of an unknown tribe off in the distance and determine whether the tribe is friend or foe. Having the trait sensory processing sensitivity, which we now know over 100 species have, really has helped us survive. So sensing the subtleties is being able to pick up on all the details. And we're going to talk about how that specifically relates to gaslighting in just a minute. The other trait or characteristic that highly sensitive people have is we are deeply intuitive. We actually have more activation in areas of the brain that are responsible for intuition. So I'd love to hear in the comments how you use your intuition in your daily life, or even sensing the subtleties. And if you find this information helpful so far, consider subscribing, hit the like button, and even share the video with a fellow highly sensitive person or someone you may be concerned about who is being gaslighted. Part 1 of this video series, I went into detail about what gaslighting actually is. So what does being highly sensitive and gaslighting have to do with each other? And are highly sensitive people more susceptible to being gaslighted? Well, the answer actually has to do with a concept called differential susceptibility. And what that basically means is if you're a highly sensitive person and you had a childhood that supported your intuition and supported your instincts, then you most likely grew up trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, trusting your intuition. However, if you grew up if your childhood was not supportive or did not validate your intuition or your instincts, then chances are you grew up not being able to trust yourself, not trusting those intuitive hits that you got. And you would have to actually cultivate that as an adult. So, for example, I grew up in an environment in which my intuition was not validated. I grew up in what's called a no-talk family, and we didn't talk about anything, especially the hard stuff. So my dad was an alcoholic, and he was what you call a binge alcoholic. So he would be sober. He could be sober for even 6 months, a year. I think he went 2 years once. And then all of a sudden he would go on a binge. And the binge could last 2 days. It could last 2 weeks. And as a child, that's very confusing because it's literally two different parents. You have sober parents and then you have drunk parents. And in my case, they were two completely different people. As a matter of fact, when my dad was drunk, he eventually got to a place where he was just in bed, and passed out in bed enough to wake up and slug the vodka bottle and then pass out again. So my parents never talked to me about that. And when I would question my mother, what's wrong with daddy? Daddy doesn't seem okay. She would poo-poo me or minimize what I'm feeling or thinking and give me an answer like, no, Dad's fine. Maybe he's not feeling well. And so what that did in the beginning was it really set me up for some confusion, to not trust what I was sensing and knowing. I knew something was off with Dad, and it wasn't just that he wasn't feeling well. Something was very, very wrong. But yet my mother, she wasn't gaslighting me. That's not what I'm saying here. She was doing the best that she could and sharing what she thought was appropriate at the time. And she didn't really know how to communicate, especially to a child about a topic so painful. So I grew up not trusting my instincts, not trusting my intuition. And I really had to work on that as an adult. So now that I trust my intuition. So what does this have to do with highly sensitive people and gaslighting? Well, as a highly sensitive person, we do have instincts because we can sense the subtleties. So if there is I'm going to say perpetrator who is trying to gaslight us, we pick up on the cues. We probably have picked up on their tell, when they're lying. They call that a tell in gambling, when you give something away. We've already picked up on that. And so we know intuitively that they're lying because remember, the whole premise behind gaslighting is that the perpetrator is intentionally psychologically manipulating the victim so that they begin to doubt themselves, doubt their feelings, their thoughts, their intuitions, and even doubt their sanity. So if you're highly sensitive and you're picking up on these cues and your childhood did not support that, and then you have a perpetrator who is intentionally telling you that your cues are wrong, then yes, highly sensitive people are more prone to being gaslighted. However, if you grew up in the environment in which your intuition was supported, so you've learned to trust yourself and you're picking up on these cues from the perpetrator trying to gaslight you, then you will trust yourself and you'll trust your intuition and you will be able to set boundaries and not go into the experience of being gaslighted, or you will be more likely to not be gaslighted. So in the next video, we're going to talk about what in the world do we do if we are being gaslighted, especially as a highly sensitive person. I'd love to know below, if you're a highly sensitive person and you've been gaslighted, how this played out in your life. And again, consider sharing this video if you think it might help somebody. And remember, when you understand your sensitivity, you too can claim it as your greatest asset.